The key, cold and solid in my palm, felt like a fragment of my own soul made manifest. After 10 years of scrimping, of working weekends while my friends went to the beach, of saying no to holidays and yes to overtime, it was here. The key to my own place. Not my parents' house, not a landlord's transient box, but mine. The weight of it was a promise kept to myself. My name is Alara. I am, by nature, a creature of quiet spaces and controlled environments. Crowds drain me. Small talk feels like a tax on my sanity. My ideal Saturday involves a book, a pot of tea, and the profound silence of my own company. This personality quirk, or flaw depending on who you ask, dictated the terms of my great property hunt. A standard apartment with shared walls and the constant thrumming presence of neighbors was my personal version of hell. A freestanding house was, for a single woman with a single income, a financial fantasy. That's how I found the listing for 7 Willow Lane. It was a terrace, one of 3 elegant, narrow homes nestled together like books on a shelf. But the listing, sent to me by a friend of a friend who knew of my search, had one magical phrase: freehold title. It was the unicorn. It meant I would own the land, the bricks, the very air within its walls, answerable to no body corporate, no strata committee. The only shared element was a slender, flagstone walkway that ran between the properties, for which I'd be jointly responsible for public liability insurance. It was a compromise I could live with, a tiny thread of community, without the suffocating blanket of collective rules. The real estate agent, a man named Julian Croft, was part of the local furniture. I didn't know him, but the 3 degrees of separation provided a false sense of security. He was friends with my friend's cousin. He coached the local under-16s football team. He had a polished, trustworthy demeanor, the kind of smile that reached his eyes just enough to be convincing but not enough to be genuine. He showed me the property, his voice a smooth, practiced instrument. And the best part, Alara, he'd said, leaning confidentially against the marble kitchen island that I knew I would never afford to replace. Freehold. No pesky bylaws telling you what color you can paint your front door. Absolute freedom. I drank those words in. I asked him to confirm it in writing. He did. My lawyer, a meticulous woman named Sarah Jenkins, confirmed it during the conveyancing process. The paperwork, a labyrinth of legal jargon, was navigated with Sarah's steady hand. Freehold title, she affirmed. It was all there in black and white. Or so I thought. For 5 months I was in a state of blissful, ignorant contentment. I painted a wall deep emerald green just because I could. I planted a climbing jasmine by my front door. It sent perfuming the evening air. I learned the rhythms of the house, the way the morning sun hit the kitchen floor, the particular sigh the front door made as it closed. It was my sanctuary. The knock that shattered it all was polite, almost apologetic. It was my neighbor David, the landlord of number 5. A decent man holding a sheet of paper. Hi Alara. Sorry to bother you. Just the annual insurance invoice for the walkway. Thought I'd pop it over. Of course, I said, smiling. I took the paper. My eyes scanned the document. It was from a company I didn't recognize. The heading read, Strata Insurance Policy Lot 2, 5 to 7 Willow Lane. The world did not tilt on its axis. It simply stopped. The air grew thick and heavy. There's a mistake, I said, my voice strangely calm. This is for strata insurance. My title is freehold. David looked confused. No, love. All 3 properties are on a strata plan. Always have been. We have a committee meeting next month, actually. You should come. The following hours were a blur of frantic action. I called Sarah Jenkins. I heard the rustle of papers on her end of the line, the sharp intake of breath. That's impossible, she kept saying. But it wasn't. She called me back an hour later, her voice tight with a professional fury I'd never heard before. She was dumbfounded. The certificate of title, the very foundation of the purchase, had been misinterpreted or worse, misrepresented. Julian Croft had provided incorrect information, and through a catastrophic series of assumptions, no one had caught it until now. My lawyer, to her immense credit, was mortified and took full responsibility for her firm's part in the oversight. She offered to reduce her fees, to help me navigate the new reality. But the damage was done. The sanctuary was a lie. I was now the owner of a strata-titled property, subject to rules I had explicitly sought to avoid, part of a collective I wanted no part of. The emerald green wall? Possibly a bylaw violation. The jasmine? I'd have to check the gardening regulations. The rage that bloomed inside me was cold, crystalline, and absolute. It wasn't a hot, screaming fury. It was the slow, deep freeze of betrayal. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a fundamental breach of trust, a poisoning of my hard-won dream. The meeting with Julian Croft was held in his office, a space designed to project success and stability. Leather chairs, glossy photos of happy families in front of perfect homes, awards on the wall. I sat opposite him, a folder on my lap containing every piece of evidence. The original listing, our email correspondence, the notes from my lawyer. He was still smiling, still the affable local agent. Alara, good to see you. Settling in well. I didn't return the smile. I opened the folder and laid the documents out, one by one like a prosecutor presenting a case. You told me repeatedly that 7 Willow Lane was freehold. In writing. Here. And here. His smile didn't falter, but it became fixed, a mask. He glanced at the papers. Ah yes. A common misconception with these older terrace blocks. The walkway creates a shared facility, but the ownership structure is very straightforward. It's straight, Julian, I said, my voice flat. Not freehold. There's no misconception. This is a misrepresentation. He waved a dismissive hand. Semantics, really. You still own your home. The strata fees are negligible. It's a wonderful community. I felt a muscle in my jaw twitch. He was redefining reality, minimizing his deception into a simple misunderstanding. I had done my research. The difference in property value between a freehold and a strata title in that area was significant. The loss of autonomy was, to me, priceless. I bought this property under false pretenses, I stated. You assured me it was freehold. Because of that, I paid above what a strata-titled property is worth. I am now bound by rules I did not agree to. He leaned back, the mask slipping slightly to reveal the steel beneath. The contract is signed, Alara. The sale is final. I'm sorry if you feel there was a misunderstanding, but the onus is on the buyer and their legal representation to verify these details. I feel. The phrase was a spark on the tinder of my anger. He was not sorry. He was smug. He had his commission. He was untouchable. I had come with a proposition, a way for him to make it right without a costly legal battle that I, with my single income and now depleted savings, could ill afford. My health, a quietly managed autoimmune condition that flared under stress, was already sending warning signals. A protracted court case would break me in more ways than one. I'm not asking for a payout, Julian, I said, forcing calm into my voice. All I ask is this. When the time comes for me to sell this property, your agency will handle the sale. You will cover all marketing and advertising costs, and you will waive your sales commission. You get the listing, I get to sell without the financial penalty of your mistake. It was more than reasonable. It was a graceful exit for us both. He laughed. A short, sharp, unpleasant sound. That's not how business works, I'm afraid. I can't make promises like that. Tell you what, he said, pulling a checkbook from his desk drawer with a flourish that was meant to be magnanimous. I'll write you a check for $1,000. For your inconvenience. We can call it a gesture of goodwill and put this all behind us. $1,000. The insult was so profound it was almost beautiful. It was the price of a decent television, not an admission of a life-altering error. It was the amount you offer to a noisy neighbor to keep quiet. It was his way of telling me I was insignificant. I stood up, my movements slow and deliberate. I gathered my papers, my hands steady though my insides were trembling. No, thank you, Julian. Keep your goodwill. His smile was back, triumphant. Suit yourself. The offer stands if you change your mind. I walked out of his office, the chill in my bones having nothing to do with the air conditioning. The mediator I saw later, at Sarah's insistence, told me I had a strong case for misrepresentation. She advised me to sue. But I looked at the mountain of legal fees, the emotional energy required, the certain flare-up of my condition, and I knew I couldn't. Not in a straightforward way. On the drive home, the cold rage began to crystallize into something else. A plan. Julian Croft operated in a world of quick deals, fast talk, and instant gratification. He had power, confidence, and the armor of his professional success. But armor always has chinks. He had underestimated me. He saw a single, quiet woman and assumed I was passive, that I would take his insulting $1,000 and fade away. He didn't understand that while I am by no means an expert or a pro at revenge, I am a patient person. And patience is a weapon that the impatient never see coming. The first phase was intelligence gathering. I became a ghost in the machine of Julian Croft's life. His personal Facebook page, thanks to his own hubris, was a treasure trove. It wasn't set to private. Why would it be? He was a local personality, his life an extension of his brand. There were photos of charity golf days, family barbecues, and holidays. It was a holiday album that caught my eye. Boys on Tour Barcelona. Posted about 5 months before I bought my house. There he was, arm in arm with 3 other men, grinning in the Spanish sun, glasses of beer raised. It was the timing that was interesting. It placed him out of the country, away from his wife, in a city known for its freedoms. A business registration search, easily accessible for a small fee, gave me his home address. A lovely double-fronted Victorian in a leafy suburb far more affluent than my own. I committed it to memory. My plan was simple, but it required a long-term commitment. I would not attack his business. I would not leave bad reviews or picket his office. That was direct, noisy, and easily traceable back to me. No, I would target the foundation of his polished life. His home, his marriage. I would plant a seed of doubt in his wife's mind and water it, patiently year after year. I needed a persona. A ghost from his past. A name. I settled on L. It was close enough to my own to feel like a secret joke, but different enough to be deniable. It sounded romantic, slightly mysterious. The weapon would be flowers. Beautiful, innocent, utterly damning flowers. The first anniversary of my property purchase arrived. A day that should have been a celebration was now a memorial for my trust. I felt a grim satisfaction as I went online to a florist located near Julian's office. The order was simple. A tasteful but lush bouquet of white lilies and roses. The note was the crucial part. I typed it carefully, my heart beating a steady, determined rhythm. Dear Julian, remembering you on this our special day. She has your eyes. Love L. I provided his office address. I pictured the delivery. The receptionist's curious glance. Julian's forced nonchalance as he took the vase. The first flicker of confusion, then unease. Would he tell his wife? Probably not. He would dismiss it as a prank, a mistake. But the seed was planted. A few months later, I engaged a service that allowed me to send physical postcards from anywhere in the world. I chose a picturesque image of Park Güell in Barcelona. The message was brief, handwritten by a machine in a foreign warehouse. The city still holds our magic. Think of you often. Love L. I was building a narrative. A fleeting, passionate affair. A woman who couldn't or wouldn't let go. Year 2. The anniversary came around again. This time the bouquet was sunflowers. The note read, My dearest Julian, another year has passed. Our special day always makes me think of what could have been. She asked about her father today. All my love, L. The she was important. It made the abstraction of an affair concrete. Created a child. A living, breathing consequence of his infidelity. I had no idea if his wife wanted children, if that was a sore point. It didn't matter. The implication alone was a toxin. Another postcard, this time from a beach town near Barcelona. The sun here is as warm as your smile. Miss you. E. I became an author, and Julian and his wife were my captive audience. My story was one of secret passion and lingering attachment. I was careful always. I used different florists, different online services. I paid with prepaid credit cards. I was a whisper, a rumor that arrived with the predictability of the seasons. Life meanwhile went on. I learned to live with the Strata Committee. I painted over the emerald green wall with the Strata-approved magnolia. The jasmine thankfully was permitted. I built a life within the confines of my compromised dream. But every year as the anniversary approached, I felt a surge of purpose. It was my secret project, my dark art. The years slipped by. 3 for 5. My annual tradition became as routine as paying taxes. I varied the flowers, orchids one year, delicate freesias the next. The notes evolved subtly. To the man who changed my life on this day. She starts school this year. Look so like you. Love always, L. Our day. Always bittersweet. You have a life there, I know. But we are here thinking of you. L. I imagined the domestic tension I was creating. The annual delivery arriving at his office. Would he try to intercept it? Would he have told his receptionist to refuse flower deliveries on that date? That would be a red flag in itself. He couldn't stop the postcards sent to his home address. They were random, unpredictable. I pictured the arguments. Him blustering, denying. It's a lunatic. A stalker. I don't know any L. Her. The doubt curdling in her stomach year after year. The specific date. Burned into her memory. Our special day. What happened on that day? Why did this mysterious woman mark this exact date? I learned through the ever-reliable grapevine of our small town that Julian's wife Clara was a sharp woman. A former accountant who had given up her career to raise their children. She was not a fool. She was the kind of woman who balanced the books, who noticed discrepancies. I was providing her with a glaring annual discrepancy. During the 6th year, I sent a final poignant note with the flowers. My love. 6 years today. A lifetime in some ways. She's growing so fast. I see you in her every day. I know you can't be with us, but on this our special day I just wanted you to know we exist. We remember. Forever yours, L. It was the culmination of my narrative arc. The resigned, loving other woman and the growing child. A permanent, silent accusation. Then 3 weeks ago the news came. It was my friend Maya, the one who had originally connected me to Julian. You'll never believe what I just heard, she said, her voice hushed with gossipy glee. Julian Croft. His wife left him. Took him to the cleaners. I was stirring honey into my tea. My hand stilled. Oh, I said, my voice carefully neutral. Yeah, apparently it's been messy for a while. Clara found out he cheated on her. Years ago. Gave her an STD and everything, the pig. She only just put it all together. The spoon made a soft clink against the ceramic mug. Put what together? Well, apparently for years this woman, some fling he had, has been sending him flowers and love notes. Every year on the same day. Signed L. Clara finally realized the date lined up with a trip he'd taken to Barcelona just before all this started. Confronted him and he broke down. Admitted everything. The STD, the affair, the lot. I took a slow sip of my tea. It was perfect. Sweet but with a bitter undertone. The story as it was told to me was even more perfect than I could have designed. The special day I had arbitrarily chosen, the anniversary of my own betrayal, had turned out to be cosmically aligned. It was right around the time he would have been, as you so crudely but accurately put it, balls deep sans condom in someone who wasn't his wife, only 1 year earlier. My fictional narrative had collided with his sordid reality, with the force of a guided missile. He lost his house. He lost half his retirement savings. His reputation in our small judgmental town was in tatters. He was no longer a real estate agent. The polished, untouchable Julian Croft was gone. Maya chattered on, but I wasn't listening. A complex cocktail of emotions stirred within me. There was a fierce, dark satisfaction. The cold rage that had lived in me for 7 years finally thawed, soothed by the balm of his ruin. He was a scumbag. He had lied to me, and he had lied to his wife in a far more profound and damaging way. He had brought this upon himself, but beneath the satisfaction, a thin, sharp sliver of guilt lodged itself. I had not known about the STD. I had not intended for that particular wound to be reopened. I had wanted to cause doubt, tension, perhaps even a fracture. I hadn't consciously aimed for total annihilation. I walked to my window and looked out at the shared walkway, the source of all this strife. The jasmine was in bloom, its scent drifting through the slightly open pane. I thought of the key, still cold and solid in a drawer upstairs. My sanctuary was still a compromise, but it was mine. And he was gone. The guilt lingered for a moment, then faded, like a shadow under the noonday sun. I am not a violent person. I am not a loud person. But I am a patient person. And I had learned that patience, when combined with a long memory and a little creativity, is the quietest, most devastating force in the world. He thought he could dismiss me with a wave of his hand and $1,000 check. He thought my quietness was weakness. He was wrong. Karma, like me, is a patient, spiteful, and vengeful bitch. And sometimes she just needs a helping hand.